Hi, welcome to the introductory video for Unit 5 of Educational Leadership, which I've titled Reform as Learning. It's really the last unit. We'll be dealing with Fullen's textbook, and that title combines the titles of the last two chapters. Chapter 5, which is Knowledge Building, and Chapter 6, which is Coherence. And you'll also be looking at the reading from Elmore and Burney, which is available on Moodle. And you'll also be reporting on the outcome of your field experience on the professional development session, which some of you may be engaging in this week. Some of you may have taken care of that previously, but you'll be writing it up in your online dialogue due as part of Unit 5. The most important thing to be looking here at, I think, are the actions taken by Anthony Alvarado in New York, which get discussion both in the Fullen text and in much more detail in the Elmore and Burney text. I think some of you will be pretty surprised with the level of commitment and type of professional learning that he instituted in Community School District Number 2 in New York City. I think it's fair to say that most students haven't been exposed to that level of professional learning as a non-negotiable, heavily invested in part of the life of a teacher. So people typically find that section pretty exciting and pretty interesting. And what I want you to be thinking about is one, what are all the specific practices that he put in place, and how might those be implemented in your workplace? Second, I think, is integrating this idea of coherence from Chapter 6 out of Fullen. And while really in overall that's a chapter applying complexity theory to organizations, schools being one type of organization that we're most interested in, of course. But what are the lessons from complexity theory that would inform our decisions on how to implement something like Anthony Alvarado was in New York City, and then later went on to do with Alan Burson in San Diego Public Schools? The things I want you to be looking for in combining that theory with the specific practices are how do people learn in my organization? That has to do with what are the experience levels, what is the satisfaction of people in their work, what are the connections and interconnections, what's the social network of the building in which I work. All of these things are going to factor into what the right strategy for implementing professional learning reforms is in a specific district. In that regard, we can't look at what Alvarado accomplished in New York City District Number 2 and put that into every single district in the country, because those all have different levels of experience, different levels of personnel satisfaction, different types of social networks. And so any given proposal for change is going to require some sensitivity to initial conditions, which is the butterfly effect in one of the concepts out of complexity theory that Fullen discusses in Chapter 6. You'll also be looking at Fullen's Chapter 7, which is sort of brief concluding chapter on the text. I think people find that really readable and very action-oriented, as he sort of gets us into thinking about change as a slow endeavor rather than a quick endeavor. And while that I think is particularly tough in our current climate we're working at, particularly those of you in the public schools, I think we are mistaken to ignore his lessons and his recommendations on finding ways to implement change slowly and collaboratively rather than quickly and administratively. So in your write-up that'll go on Moodle in Unit 5, we're looking for you to integrate comments from Elmore and Burney, the last 3 chapters out of Fullen, and your field experience in which you observed a professional learning experience and evaluated it as you would a classroom lesson. Looking for what are the objectives, what methods were used, what was the assessment to ensure that people learned what was supposed to be happening, and you're going to report out your findings there. Looking ahead, you'll see that your midterm is coming up, and that's going to require that you have the big orange splot text, and you can read the directions for the midterm assignment in the syllabus, and so that'll be due by the date listed on the syllabus by email. And that'll be back to you about a week after it's submitted. After the midterm is submitted, we're also going to start working on the Bowman and Deal text. and so you need to make sure you have that available. And we're going to look at the little summary that I have in Moodle and the first couple chapters out of that after. So if that book isn't ordered, make sure that you hop on that quickly. Also, we're hitting the 4th of July holidays part of the semester. Our course, because it's online, continues right through the holiday break. If you have holidays that days you know you're not going to be available, not going to be able to check online, please plan accordingly so that you can stay up with your work while enjoying time with your friends and family. If you have any questions, please get in touch with me by email, and I look forward to seeing you all online to discuss the Reform as Learning unit in Unit 5. Take care.